Greetings my wonderful minions. It's time for my Christmas charity stream, Kiba said into her camera, showing off her lovely Christmas outfit. Turns out my Netta had been correct when he said Kiba was going to be cute in the future. The girl hadn't changed much in appearance. Sure, she looked slightly more mature, and you could tell she was a teen girl if you looked closely, but she was pretty short for her age, and her chest was lacking, much to her frustration. Her overall childish appearance, combined with her usual attitude, allowed her to remain utterly adorable. And of course, since Kiba's knack for tearing food into pieces hadn't changed, so she also kept her Gapmo appeal. Currently, she was dressed as Santa himself, an outfit Shiroku took pleasure in making. She also had on some makeup, which was, of course, blood red. Although that wasn't the most eye-catching thing about the scene right now. No, the most notable thing was the sleigh she was sitting in, and the manticores that were tied to it. There was also a massive sack that towered over Kiba, absolutely filled to the brim with, presumably, presents. As you can see, today we'll be blessing people with gifts from yours truly, Kiba proclaimed, flamboyantly posing on her sleigh. I'll be flying through the city to deliver presents to the children everywhere. What? How? Is this legal? Kiba's so generous. I don't think you can actually fly a sleigh like that. Won't the presents fall out of the sack? Hail to our benevolent queen. Now, don't worry. I've gotten permission from the city, so don't worry about that. Kiba explained. And both the sleigh and sack have been specially made for this task. I have spent quite some time planning this out. So you have no need to fear. Suddenly, Kiba looked off screen. Of course, Santa doesn't work alone, and neither will I. Come my loyal elves. That's when Kiba's elves walked into frame. Those being Fu and Kay, both dressed in elf attire. Hi everyone. Kay waved to the camera, with a huge grin on her face. Hey. Fu greeted. The two jumped onto the sleigh, meaning that everything was ready. Alrighty then. Now, Kiba sat down, and grabbed the reins, before whipping them upward. Let's go. This signaled the manticores to start running and flying off the roof. The three of them were being pulled towards the edge of the roof, and just before they slid off it, Kiba pressed a button and activated the hover devices on the bottom that would keep them upright. They went off the roof and into the air as the manticores carried them higher into the air. This is insane. Only Lady Kiba and her might could make this happen. It's a Christmas miracle. The manticores make this look like the nightmare before Christmas. Alright, everyone. First stop, Amai's soup kitchen, Kiba said, before taking hold of the reins. There is no time to waste. Rah! The manticores roared as they flew them into the city. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Do you think your sister will really make the whole sleigh thing work? Amai asked, Yami, as the two of them worked in the soup kitchen, dressed up in Santa outfits. Joining them was Fuku, also dressed as Santa, who, in the spirit of the holidays, agreed to help out with the cooking, so long as she got to hide in the kitchen, away from everyone else. It helped that Amai kept feeding her mood candies so she couldn't get too stressed out. Meanwhile, outside the actual kitchen, there was, of course, the usuals, but there were also a lot more kids here than usual, as Kiba had asked that they gather as many of the children in the area at the kitchen. She's Kiba, so probably, Yami said, as he put a ham in the oven. Yeah, the only things that have ever stopped Kiba is herself. Fuku agreed. And Sansan. Yami added. Don't let her hear you say that. She'll go nuts. Amai giggled. Suddenly, Netsu, who had been helping out as well, ran into the kitchen. Guys, she's here. On the roof. Well, looks like she made it. Amai smiled. Alright, let's get all the kids on the roof. Netsu, you mind clearing up the snow? Sure thing. Netsu said with a huge grin on his face. Don't worry, I won't set the building on fire. You better not. I have a fear of being on fire. Fuku shouted back. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Whoa! The kids looked up at Kiba in awe, as she and her sleigh landed on the now mostly snowless roof. Ho! 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 Kiba said, as she stood up and faced the children. Merry Christmas, small, unfortunate children. I, the mighty Kiba, have come to bless you all with my presents, on this most joyous of holidays. Now come, line up to receive your gifts. Fu used Kyosiai's tendrils to reach the top of the bag, untie it, and start bringing down gifts, handing them down to Kiba and Kay to give to the children, making sure to give the blue ones to the boys and the pink ones to the girls. The children eagerly took the presents from the two girls, before moving away from them and opening them up immediately. Inside they all found the same thing. 2 sets of clothes, 1 set for warmer weather and 1 for hotter, that were personally made by Shiroku, as well as a random toy, be it an action figure or a doll or something else. The children gasped, all of them getting huge grins on their faces, at the sight of new clothes and a toy. Most of these children barely had any clothes, let alone ones for the seasons. So this was a real blessing for them. Of course, Kiba had wanted to give them all her merch, but considering these kids didn't really have access to her videos, they might not really appreciate it as much as others. Once all the presents were handed out for the children, Fu wrapped the sack back up using Kyosei's tendrils. Is everyone happy with their gifts? Amai asked the children. Yes. The children cheered, all holding their presents tightly to their chests. Well, what do we say to Kiba Claus? Amai giggled at the name she made up. Thank you Kiba Claus. All the children said to Kiba, pretty much in unison. Kiba stood up and raised her arms, almost shedding a tear of joy as she soaked in that sweet, sweet validation. You're welcome younglings. Now, the great Kiba must continue her quest. Remember to stay on the nice list. And have a Merry Christmas. She shook the reins and the manticores took off, taking the sleigh with it. Bye. The children all waved Kiba goodbye to, as she went higher and higher into the sky. That was so cute. I wish Kiba was around when I was a kid. Kiba is awesome. Kiba checked the donations. They had reached about 39 million yen, about $348,000. They had made good progress towards their goal, of a 100 billion yen, about $1 million. Thank you everyone who's donated. You have pleased your queen greatly, Kiba said, smirking into the camera. But now, it's time we moved on to our next location. To the Uravati Young Fans Meetup. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. And they all lived happily ever after, Ochako said, as she closed the book she had been reading, to the army of children that were sitting in front of her. Yee. The children cheered as the story ended happily. Their cheers were deafening and caused Ochiko's ears to hurt, doing more damage to her than most villains. More. Now kids. Izuku put a hand on her shoulder. We told you that would be the last one. And besides, we have something else planned for you all real soon. Just then, with perfect timing, Izuku got a text. He pulled out his phone, and saw it was a message from Fu, saying we're outside. Izuku turned to Ochako and whispered to her. They're here. Ochiko's face lit up, and she turned to the kids and stood up. Alright, kids. Are you ready for a special surprise? Yeah. The kids cheered and screamed again. Alright, put on your hats, jackets, and gloves, because we're gonna have to go outside for this next part, Ochako told all of them. Okay. The children cheered, quickly getting up and running towards their parents, eager to go outside and see what the surprise was. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Ho! Kiba shouted as soon as the kids came out, and saw her and her sleigh. She's gonna do that every time we land, isn't she? Fu thought. You know she is. Kyosei responded in his head. The children gasped. Presents. All the children quickly swarmed her sleigh, and they quickly had to start handing out presents. Whoa! It's the new Hawks action figure! Shouted one boy excitedly as he opened the present. I got him T-Lady! Shouted another boy. I got Charge Bolt! Shouted a girl. I got the new superhero bash game! Shouted another girl. No way! Shouted the children around her. Seeing as the next stop was at an Uravati fan meetup, the next layer was filled with all sorts of hero-related gifts. Namely toys and games. It took quite some time to give out all the presents. Fortunately, they knew how many children would be there ahead of time, and so they didn't have to worry about running out. Once all the gifts were handed out, Kiba looked down at the smiling faces of the children once more. She took a deep breath, absorbing the admiration and joy like a sponge, and if you looked close enough, you could see her head get bigger, as it all went right to her noggin. Meanwhile, Izuku and Ochako watched proudly in the back. I'm so proud, Izuku said, tearing up slightly, causing Ochako to get closer to support him. It's thanks to you she turned out so great, Ochako said, giving him a peck on the cheek. We all know how easy it is for egos to get out of hand. Well, she was already a good kid, I just kept her that way, Izuku responded humbly, while still staring up at Kiba with tears of joy in his eyes. Such a good girl. Meanwhile back with Kiba she looked past the couch and saw her father smiling and sobbing happily, looking at her with pride. Kiba felt a burst of unparalleled joy explode inside her, and she waved at her father, along with Fu and Kei, and saw him wave back. "Ah, look at Papa Zuko looking so proud. I don't think I've ever seen a more proud father. Everyone donate more. More." Kiba took that as a sign to look at the donations. And her eyes went wide when she saw that the stream had really picked up, and so did the donations, surpassing 100 billion yen, and reaching 100,356,789,987 yen, and rising. "This is fantastic," Kiba said to the camera. "Amazing work my minions. Your charitable Christmas spirit is astounding. Truly you have surpassed my expectations. Wonderful. Now let's see how far we can go. We do have one more location to visit, before the end of the stream." She shook the reins, and the manticores started running forward, pushing the sleigh into the air. "By Santa!" The children waved goodbye, as Kiba flew away. XXXXXXXXXX. Kiba finally reached the last destination, as she landed on the roof of a children's hospital, where the director of the hospital, an elderly man in a suit, was waiting for them. "Miss Kiba, it's an honor to have you here." The director greeted them with a smile on his face. "I'm so happy you decided to come and give presents to the children. Well, if anyone could use some Christmas cheer from yours truly, it would be those plagued by illness," Kiba said as she and the others came out of the sleigh, with Fu using Kyosei's tendrils to take the sack and the camera with them. "What kind of queen would I be if I didn't attend to my most unfortunate of subjects?" "Well then let's not keep them waiting," Fu said, wanting to keep things moving along. Yes, I'm eager to see the children's faces when they see you," the director said. "I'm sure they'll be overjoyed." XXXXXXXXXX. Byaoki was scared. Of course, it was natural for an 8-year-old boy to be scared when he was told he had some kind of disease and that he would need to stay in the hospital for a while. His parents had tried to reassure him that everything was going to be alright, but if that was the case, why did it look like his mother had been crying beforehand? And now he was going to be here during Christmas. Sure, his parents would be coming, but no one wanted to spend Christmas in a hospital, wondering if they were going to die. And what's worse is that was all he could really think about. The channels on the hospital TV only had something good on some of the time, and the internet and service here were absolute garbage. Meaning he'd often spend time just sitting in his bed, contemplating if he was gonna survive or not. And for a while, it seemed like today was gonna be one of those days. With him sitting in his bed doing nothing, trying not to pay attention to the dead silence of the room. Until suddenly, Kiba kicked his door open, gently as to not make it fly off the hinges, holding a present. "Greetings, sick child. I have come with gifts and joy." "Huh?" Byaoki recoiled a bit when the door flew open and a stranger came in, but his fear quickly turned to excitement when he noticed the aforementioned gifts. "Here. A charity from the Queen of Eternal Darkness herself. The hero, in training, Regina Tenebrau Materna," Kiba said, proudly stating her hero name as she placed the present in the boy's hands. "Huh?" The child squinted at her in confusion, competently taken off guard by that hero's name. Fu sighed. "We just call her Regina." Kiba shook her head. "Them lacking in class aside, come. Open your present, little one." It took Byaoki a second to recover from Kibaness before he quickly opened up his present. Inside was a few items. Firstly, a book. Something to keep him busy that wasn't reliant on the internet. And a new Nintendo Switch Neo, and the latest Mario and Pokemon game. His eyes widened and a huge smile was plastered on his face. "Oh my god." Kiba patted him on the head. "Merry Christmas." "Thank you." The little boy moved slightly and wrapped his arms around Kiba's waist. "Thank you so much." Kiba took a deep breath and smiled. So much validation today. So good. Kei and Fu smiled from the doorway, as they recorded the whole thing. "My heart. I can't. I'm gonna get diabetes. Too cute." And Kiba's ego grew 10 plus sizes that day. And this is just the start. As the last commenter said, this was just the beginning of a long process, where Kiba would give similar gifts to other children in the hospital. After a few hours, they finally gave away every last present. "Oh, being a generous queen feels so good," Kiba said as she got back in her sleigh. "I don't get how Iron Fisters do it. She is gonna spend a whole week bragging about this." Fu sighed as he got on. "Thank you for letting us do this, Mr. Director." Kei thanked the old man. "No, thank you all." The director gave a bow of respect. "You're very, very welcome." Kiba said, absolutely beaming, before looking at the donations. Fantastic my minions. Our goal was to reach 100 billion yen. And we reached almost double that. Yeah, we did it. Virtual high fives. Well then, we've reached the end of the stream. Kiba smiled at the camera. I'll see you all in the new year. Perhaps it will be the year I finally take over the world. Unlikely, Fu said. Have a happy holiday. And good night, Kiba said before the stream went dark.